are you ready? And disclaimer, I would be covering Java 22 language features. So what's the Java version that you are on? We'll start with 6? No, sorry, kidding. Any answers? Come on, people. I will not let you sleep. If you're planning to snooze, no, that's not going to happen. 70. Oh, that's amazing. 21? Anyone? 1 hand, 2 hand, 5 hands. No, I don't see anyone. Okay, that's okay. So you are here to learn, and we'll see some of the Java 22 language features. Which one? I'll talk about string templates. Anyone has read anything about string templates? It was previewed in Java 20. Oh, lovely. I love you. Already one hand up. So anyone else? String templates? It was previewed in Java 21. So this is about string interpolation with verification and validation of the variable values that you add to the literal values. And it could also verify the structure that you get as a result. Because when we're talking about string templates, we're not talking about just combining the literal values with the variable values to get the string. I could create a JSON value, XML, anything as a result. Then I'll be talking about implicit classes and instance main methods. Anyone who's read about it? Again, that was previewed in 21, Java version 21. Okay, seems that no educators here in the hall, and no one is new to Java, I know that. But if you are one of those categories, if you have like wanting to teach Java to anyone who wants to learn, of course, or if you know people who want to get started with learning Java, this is a feature that they would love. It reduces the ceremony around getting started with learning Java. The next one is unnamed variables and patterns. So who here has used pattern matching? 17, oh, lovely people. Yes, records. More hands should go up. It was in 14. Wow, that is amazing. Yes, now you know that you will not be able to sleep. That's good. So of course, any feature that adds into the language, it also brings in kind of some pain points. So when we use records, we use record patterns. There are a lot of variables. That's echoing. Am I close to something? Okay. So that the pain points, some of the pain points would be addressed by unnamed patterns. And a lot of times you would see a lot of variables which are not used in your code base. Of course, you can use ChatGPT to generate, I'm getting too excited, to generate a lot of code and other tools as well, but you have to read that damn code. So if there are variables which are not used, you can replace them, the variable names, with an underscore, and that would mean that the variable is not being used in the code base. That becomes very easy. If you're not using a variable, you don't have to be bothered about reading that. But why do you have those unused variables in the first place? That we'll see. That could be because of the language constraints. It has to be there. You are using some of the side effects of that feature, but not using that variable. So, but it could also be a code smell, and I have examples to show that to you. The last one is statements before super. So how many of you have inherited a class and written a constructor in the derived class? Oh my God, we have so many managers here. Oh my God, that was a lame joke. Or, okay, no, I was kidding. So when we talk about creating a constructor in the derived class, a lot of time we have to validate the values that we pass to the base class constructor. And how do we do that? The first statement that has to be called is super. So we have a lot of workarounds. We define a static method to validate those methods or to change their form. This will change with statements before super. Now you can actually write your code before calling super. Does that make a lot of difference? Yes, it does. You don't really have to look for workarounds, and it makes your code a lot more legible. Quick introduction, of course. Why should you be listening to me on these topics? Because I have been writing a lot about these new features. I have written a couple of blogs. I have also written a couple of books. So that means I know how to communicate well, and also the topics that I talk about. Okay, with each example or each topic that I will cover, of course, I'll talk about what the language feature is. That would include covering the syntax and the semantics. So you might ask, some of you might ask, what is the difference between syntax and semantics? So I was talking about this. So whenever I'm preparing for a session, I talk with my daughter, and I know that's a pain for her, but she can't escape it. So she asked me, so what's the difference between syntax and semantics? So I told her, you're small, you have 2 eyes, you have 2 legs, you're cute. So that's the syntax part of you. But you are irritating, you are clingy, you are a devil, but also an angel, and the reason why I live. So that's the semantic part. And that applies to every Java new language feature that you think about or you kind of learn about. There is something which you see on the surface, that's the syntax part. It should have, I don't know, a plus sign before that, after that, a lot of rules. But what does it bring to your code? How does it impact your code on a, let's say, a bigger scale? So those are the things which I call semantics. Why should you care about any of the features that I would be covering? That really depends on how much you use the feature, or directly or indirectly. Directly, you would be writing a code that would be using those features. Indirectly, when you would be reading code that uses those features. For a quick example, how many of you have used the string class? Raise your hands. Still a lot of managers in the audience. I don't see all hands going up. Okay. That means string templates is one topic that you should be caring about, because that would impact how you use strings and string concatenation in Java code. Every feature which is introduced promises to address a lot of pain points, and we'll see how it does that. And of course, as I mentioned, the ways in which a feature should not be used. And with that, I would go to my demo about string templates. As I mentioned, it's about string interpolation. String interpolation, the literal meaning would be embedding the variable values into the string literals with verification and validation. I'll give you a quick example. So on the left, right, on the left, you would see a JSON data. This looks okay. On the right, you would see the same structure, but with additional commas. So that's a format which is not correct. It's valid, but it's not verified. Now, what about the other example? In this, on the right side, you would see the data which is not valid. Polling code is not valid. The age is -25. Of course, no one can be -25. So these are the kind of things that you could do with string interpolation, because a lot of times we all know how we create our JSON objects. We have variable values, and then we embed them into some of the literal values. At the time when we are doing that, at the boundary when we are accepting those values or creating our objects, we could use string templates to verify and validate all of them. And as I said, why do we care? Because we would be using that a lot of time. This is another example and a trick question. Do you think this qualifies as SQL injection? And do you think that will delete a lot of rows from, or probably all the rows from the table transactions? The one who think that will delete, raise your hands. Okay, 1, 2, 3, a couple of you. And the ones who think it will not delete, raise your hands. Less, fewer, okay. Okay, it will not delete. Why do you think that? Because this query is missing a space between the table name and the where keyword. Did you see that? And this would happen a lot of time when you concatenate your string values, when you want to kind of verify or validate the values. And that's why string templates is important, I would say, because the existing ways of concatenating values that we have. So what are the existing ways we use to concatenate values? We have the plus operator. What else? Sorry? Yes, string. Yes, string.join, string builder.append. We have, yes, formatted, yes. So we have a lot of ways to concatenate string, but each one of them would have some issue or the other. This is another example. That was an email. Of course, I changed some of the values, but I received this as an actual email which about some details, and now you would see the issues. The name is all upper cap, and the missing spaces. Again, this was formed by concatenating values, and the developer who created the code missed some of the things which was about changing the case or adding the spaces, missing spaces. Again, a quick example. Do you think there's any problem with the with the JSON data here? Yes? Okay, the ones who say no. Ah, lovely, you managed to snooze. Let me try some other tricks. Okay, so if you look at the latitude value, that is not a valid value. And when I use string templates, I could validate this value right at the time when I embed the variable value into the static strings. I think I've kind of managed to convince you all that string templates is important and good. I have a demo, but before that, I just wanted to mention that string templates was introduced as a preview language feature in Java 21, previewed in Java 22. A preview language feature means that the language feature is complete but not permanent. So before it becomes a production feature, some changes might be introduced. So Brian Gates, who is the Java language architect, published on using this link that they are going to make a lot of changes to string templates. So in the future, you might see a version where the demo that I would show you, that would have some differences, but the goals remain the same. The goals that I talked about earlier about the ease of concatenation with verification and validation. And that said, let me hop on to my IDE. So I'm using IntelliJ IDEA. So let me get rid of the bar at the top so that we have some more real estate. Okay, now looks better. So of course, when you are using to use Java 22 in IntelliJ IDEA, there's just a quick setting that you have to do. You have to go to the project structure, download the JDK, which is 22. If you don't already have it, you can download it via this option. And okay, because I'm not connected to the internet, it says it cannot download, but of course you'll get a pop-up and you would be able to download within the IDE, so you don't have to exit it. Once you do that, in the project, you have the language level set to preview, and the other one is unnamed variables entitled, which is not a preview language feature. So let me set it to preview, and I'll do that the same for the modules as well. So setting is done, we are good to go. And this is, as I said, one of the examples where you would like, this is a very, I would say, common example. You have a method, you want to log some messages, and the values are a combination of the literal strings here and some variable values that are passed to this method. So what is the problem? Okay, first of all, there's a compilation problem. Let me fix that one. And let me type what? Come on, come on, come on. Oh my God, this is not working. Why? Ah, yes. Now can you see that? The code in gray. So that is full line code completion in IntelliJ IDEA. That's the local LLM that runs on your IDE. You don't have to be connected to the internet. I'm not connected to the internet right now. And it generates a single line of code for you. I love this feature. If you are not using it, you must use that. So it tries to kind of do a lot of things. Now it sends that the compilation error would go if the variable is created that way. So let's create a main method and try to run this method and see what happens. Now I say string concatenation dot, and if I say, now again you see I get a full line code completion where I'm calling the method with some variable values. Now because I want to print this value, here the code says if the quantity is less than 0, only then it would log this message. So let me change the value here from 10 to -10. And let me also change the product name to A. Let's see if I run this code, what happens. So this is running now. At present, do you see any error with the code or any problem with the code? Yes? No? Maybe? Yes, yes, that's right. So this is the code that I get, and as you can see, there are missing spaces. So, and this is not very obvious from the concatenation operator that we're already using. So let's see. So I know IDEA would identify the snippets of the code where the old code can be replaced with the new code, and that comes in really handy because you don't have to know the syntax of the newer feature. The IDE would do that for you. But before that, let me show you the other options that we have. I could replace the concatenation operator with the string builder.append. It becomes more legible. I find that more readable, but I still cannot detect whether I'm missing the missing spaces or not. Wow, that's quite a line, missing the missing spaces. And now let's replace that with the formatted. Now it solves one problem, introduces other, because I can see that if I click on %d, I can figure out there's a missing space, but I have to hop on between the usage of %d and the actual variable name. So I have to kind of hop on from one to the other. Let's see if we have anything better. Let me revert. And what other option do we have? So the last one is using message format. Now again, not really what I was looking for. I still have to hop on between the variable names and the text. So let's see if string templates are any better. So now I'm going to replace that with a string template, and let's see what we have. Now you might say the syntax for defining or for using the variable is a bit not so, not no one, but a lot of people don't like this. A lot of people have given a lot of flack for this syntax element having a backslash, because a lot of other languages, they don't have backslash. You just use a dollar or otherwise, or just the braces. But this is what it is at present in Java. Let's say if it changes. But now what I can do is it's very clear that the missing spaces could be kind of corrected. Of course, if I add a missing space at the wrong place, that would generate a compilation error. And this is how I could do that. And also, IntelliJ IDEA would provide code completion. So if I delete this one and I have a backslash and an opening brace, I would, what's happening? Why the keys are not working? I would get a closing brace as well, and I get code completion like anywhere. So that is good. So let's see if that works or not. So yes, it's running, not as fast as Venkat's, but yes, we'll get there. Now, this is what we get. So we've kind of taken care of some of the issues. So what did we do here? So this is, let me go back to my, so this is the kind of string that you saw in the code. So we are talking about template processor, which is the str. If I go back to the IDE, you can see that this str here is the name of the template processor. This is defined within the Java API, core Java API. And then we have the rest of the string, whether it's text blocks. Text blocks is multi-line strings, and this is the old regular string. That is, together it's called template. And within the template, you have the template expression. So the value could come from either a variable, it could come from a method call, it could come from an expression, a ternary expression, anything that could return you a value could be used as a template expression, even your switch expressions. And now let me go back to this code. Now, if I click on this one, I can view what str is and where it is defined. You can see that it's defined within the interface string template, and it's the type is processor. And of course, you can take a lot of details, but the two things that I want you to focus on is Yes. Oh my God, the light is not optimal and I forgot my glasses. Oh, that's bad. Sorry. What was this? A hierarchy. Come on, come on. Yes. No, this is not. I think that was file structure. Yes, Control F2. I was pressing F2 only. What happened? Okay, so now the two things that you might want to focus is the fragments and the values as of now. Fragments are, if I go back to my IDE, where is it? Let's go back to the expression that we were talking about. So this is fragment 1, not 1, 0, and this is value 0. And then I have fragment 1 and value. So that's how it goes. The fragments are the literal ones and the values are the variable values. And how does that matter? Because when I'm creating, so this is the one of the predefined string, processor, which is included in the Java API. There's another one, which is FMT. I have an example of that one. And you could also create your own custom processors. And then you would need to know how you want to process the values, the variable values. So let me go to, let me show you an example. I'll show you an example of the other template, which is included in the core Java API, which is the FMT template. And let's take a look at the example. So this is an example. You might see, you might want to generate a bill like this, where you have, of course, some static text and then you literal values, and then you have the variable values coming in. So that's the header. This is the line for each and every item that is purchased, because we are generating a bill. And then at the end, you have some text. So this is using the str string template that I showed earlier. Here I have the FMT, which is formatting, for formatting. And I believe a lot of you would already have used specifiers like this with the previous string functions. And this is combined here. And let me run this code. And of course, the values that I'm using are records of customer and order and shipping shopping item. And all the code that you see here in my presentation today is uploaded on my blog post. You can find Java 22 and IntelliJ IDEA blog post, and each and every line of code you would see on that blog post that could be copy pasted to be used in your applications or whatever. So now if I generate the bill here, this is how the values look. They're nicely formatted, and when I am kind of combining those two things, the variable values and the literal strings, I can format the values as well. What else can you do? Where are my notes? Just a moment. Now, I have an interesting example for you. If you are kind of, no, this is the email and this is the emoji demo. Okay, so this needs to be closed. Yes. Now this is one line where what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to combine the text smiling with the variable smile and the text wink with the value of the variable wink. And because I am prefixing that with emojis, which is a custom template, I would have a different output. Let's see what the output would be first of all. And then I'll dive deep into what the custom template is doing. So this is how I could do that. And how did I do that? I have a template here. Here is the template, emojis. And I have to, because it's a functional interface, and I have to override just one method, which is off, and the code that executes when I run when I use that template is this. I am using string builder. I am concerned about the fragments and the values. And if the value that I have is contained in one of the emoji map, here I have the emoji map where I'm have the keys as the values that I want to use here in this line, and what is it that I want to replace that. So I find that value in a map and I replace it with whatever I want to. So this is one cool example if you want to kind of create encoding or decoding value language to talk with your peers, or probably, no, I shouldn't say that. Okay, so the other, so my daughter uses that to talk with her friends. And of course, she has replaced that with a lot of things that I don't understand now. And I don't have the key to decode that. So that's interesting. This is another example I wanted to show you. It's about the PDF. So I had a situation where I was trying to, where is it? Yes. Where I was trying to read a JSON data. So let me show you the JSON data that I have. So this is quiz, and let me first of all delete this file because I would generate that. And this is the JSON data that I used to create a set of, let's say, question papers for my daughter. And the library that I was using to generate the PDF did not allow me to use this down arrow that was used for precipitation in chemistry. So what I did was I created a custom template here, and I mentioned that what I want to do whenever I encounter this down arrow key, I should replace that with the word precipitation. Here I'm scanning through all the values that are added dynamically, and I'm replacing the down with the word precipitation. And does that work? Yes, it does. Let me, so I just deleted the PDF file I showed to you. And if I run that, I would, okay, so this is created. No, what happened? I did not see the file. What did I do? Just a moment. Live demos, interesting always. It was working an hour back. Let's see if it works again. Okay, come on, come on. Am I generating the file in the wrong place? It says the page is created, but the file itself is not being created. But you get what I mean, kind of a thing. So let's move on to the next one. Yes, this is one that would be quite relevant to what we do all the time. So this is an example of a JSON data. And here what I'm trying to do is, so this is a string, and I just quickly want to talk about one thing which is not related to string templates, but what I can do is if I have string data stored as your string doesn't has to be kind of used with a string template, I could add language, inject language or reference. Let's say in this case, I add JSON to it. What it does is it highlights that the structure is incorrect. You see the red wiggly line here, that it means that it has a missing comma. And I could fix that by just injecting the language or references. That's the feature of IntelliJ IDEA. And you can inject multiple other things like your SQL or XML or other data formats. It has multiple data formats for you to work with. And now this is the JSON data that I was talking about. Here, what I am doing is it's embedding the variable values with literal values. Of course, that looks good. Let's see what we get. Now, when I talk about this custom template, what am I doing is I have created a method, and here I sanitize the values that I am about to add to the literal values. Let me go back to the values that I was talking about. So where are the values? Yes. So if you look at this value again, you would see that this is not the correct value. I should not be having the backslash here with the double quotes. I'm escaping that. So how do I deal with that part? What I'm doing is I'm sanitizing the string. So of course it depends on you, your business case. How do you want to deal with any value which is extra or missing? You want to throw an error, you want to correct that, you want to drop that. So that's the business logic that we're talking about. But this is how I am creating a custom template in which I figure out what do I do with the value. I could also throw an illegal argument exception, of course, if the value is not string or number or boolean. Here the values are not being used, so that's replaced by an underscore, which is one of the features that we would be covering later in this session. And of course, this is a method. And if you look at this again, what I am returning with a combination of the string values and the literal values is an instance of weather data, which is a record. So as I said, you don't really have to create just a literal, just a string by the interpolation. You could create any data format. So when I run this, I would let's see. So that string would be sanitized, and now it gets me error latitude. Okay. So the problem here is that the latitude value is out of range. So let me fix this and let me run that again. So I probably went a step ahead, and so that was the second point that I was kind of supposed to show and show to you. So this is what I get with that interpolation. What if I modify the latitude value and make it the way it was out of the range? In this case, how do you determine in your string processor what value is coming in? So do you kind of modify every value which is over the value of the latitude? Yes or no? How many would say yes? Do you kind of modify all the values which are over, let's say, 180 or 90? Would that be sane to do? No, because here we're not able to determine which value would be passed to which header within your JSON format. To do that, what I did was, if I go to weather data, because the value that is being returned is an instance of a record. We all know whenever we are creating instance of a record, a class, or whatever, we could have validations there. So this is what I did. So when I return weather data, I have this city and I have the coordinates. And in the record coordinates, I'm validating the latitude and longitude value that comes in my JSON value, my record. So this is what I meant about patterns, anti-patterns in the beginning. If I would have created a string template that would filter out all the values which are in a certain range, that would be an anti-pattern or something that would be a kind of a bug which you would figure out quite long in your development process. So this is how you should be kind of doing this. And there's one last example that I want to show you, because I know I've already convinced you to use string patterns, string templates, sorry, but I believe how many of did try out creating RAG applications, retrieval augmented generation? Did I get that right? Okay, it doesn't matter. Did anyone try that out? Where you would kind of create a prompt and execute that? Yes, one or two hands? No, that was just correct. That was funny. Okay, so again, there's a possibility that the same issue of missing spaces might creep in, and let's say the method wanted to return something, but because of the missing spaces, it returns a prompt which doesn't make sense to the LLM. So that's another place that you could be kind of having issues with. And with that done, I think we've covered this feature, and I'll not talk about this because I think we've already talked about this. when I was talking about examples. So now I want to talk about implicit classes and instance main methods. As I said, if you are one of the educators, you don't have to start with your the way you create the first program for developers. I believe almost all of us would have started with public static void main and public class. We've all done that. And the time, if you think, go back in that time, you would know that a lot of time you did not kind of need to know all the keywords at that time, but of course there was no kind of a workaround at that point of time, so you had to. But now we do have. So let me go back to my IDE and show you some quick examples how that works. So instance main method. So this is a hello world.java, a source code file, which is, as you see, blank right now. So what I could say, class hello world, again, single line code completion. I can use tab and what is happening? Control enter and I just say system.out.println and I say hello world. Now this is how we have been doing this. Could be this class, could be public class hello world, and this could be completely taken off. This method may not necessarily be part of any class, but that doesn't mean that it's not actually, it's part of an implicit class, because take it as way, if you do not define a class to be part of a package, it is part of an implicit package, and that goes with the modules as well. So the same applies here. The other keywords that we could take off are public, static, and I could also take away the arguments that go here. Now this goes to as simple as this one, and you can get started with this bare minimum code base. How does that matter? It's just a couple of keywords. I would say it matters to the people who are getting started. It's better not to overwhelm them with the details that they do not use. So what apart from hello world can you do with this main method? I believe this is the code that almost all of you would have written when getting started learning Java. Calculate the interest. We all are very interested in calculating the interest, right? So the other example, I know it's basic, but still we kind of learn how to declare the variables and assignments, other things. What about how we graduate slowly to kind of working with patterns? Patterns in the sense printing something in a way, and if you take a closer look, we are introducing a lot of concepts to the younger audience. We are talking about loops, conditional statements, and another thing that we could do is we could slowly introduce more concepts like what is happening. I could extract this to a method. I could say print p. And this would work as well. So let's see what this prints. I assume a lot of you would have printed similar, I would say, patterns when you were starting to learn Java or for say any other languages. This is fun to work, right? What else do folks like to do? Animated text, perhaps. So let me. Why do I have a breakpoint here? Okay. Now, in this case, what I'm trying to do is I have introduced more concepts and I'm still working within the main methods. And with this, what I'm trying to show is even though the syntax looks not so trivial or not so bigger impact, it does have a bigger impact on the way we kind of move teaching the younger generation about the new features. This, of course, everyone likes. Data structure programs, lead code, everyone just loves it. So that could be, again, within the main method, plain Jane main method, nothing fancy here. So again, so this is a guessing game. What this does is I have an import statement at the top. So that means even though it's an implicit class, I could still have import statements and gradually introduce concepts to new folks. So why not play this game? what do you say? Oh my God, this says exit code 0. What happened here? What is happening? Oh, what am I doing wrong? This was supposed to guessing game 5. What just happened here? Oh my God. Okay, so this is an interesting thing. I had the main method, but what I was passing to it, now this was not staged. This is the actual error. So if I remove this one, now it becomes, what's happening now? It says update usages to reflect signature. Why? So now let me run this, and okay, I have another, probably I was doing something and forgot to delete that part. And now just run this game again. A very simple hangman game which all of us have kind of played at some point in our life. Any guesses here? So it's a 4-letter word. What word could the first letter or the second or the third, fourth be? Any guesses? Come on, people. Only 15 minutes of torture left. Oh my God, that's a spoil sport. That's a spoil sport. I hate you for that. Yes, Java it is. Yes, you guessed the word right. Okay, so this was about implicit classes, and the other points that I quickly want to cover on that was what happens with the implicit classes if you decompile that. So if I go to my, yes. It has to be either without any argument or the previous one, which is the array. So I cannot have any other thing because that is what I had. I was kind of trying to kind of perfect my demo, and I had int a, and then it was not recognized as the main method. So as we know, we could have multiple variations, we could overload it, but if it doesn't matches the definition of a method, then it will not run as the class kind of a thing. So if I go to my target folder, and I could see one of the decompiled classes, statements before super, string templates. Oh, why? That's funny. We had a couple of executions as well, but why do I not see them here? Okay, so what I wanted to show you was the classes are behind the scenes. They are compiled to a regular class, and of course a no, what happened here? Just a moment. Okay, so there's no separate tool chain for compiling and executing all these classes, because that's one of the concerns, because if we introduce a different kind of way to compile and execute classes, then newcomers have to unlearn it and then go to the other one. And of course, when you are ready to move forward, you can simply kind of convert this implicitly declared class into a regular class. With IntelliJ IDEA, that would be just be execution on one of the inspection. So that's one thing. And what else are we missing? We covered this one. I'm checking my notes, of course. I was trying to kind of remember all my blog posts, did not work. And of course, if I, let's say, make it int a, then, wow. Now, full line code completion is funny here. So if I try to run this, it will not run. And at that point, IntelliJ IDEA was supposed to prompt to me that it could add 1. So what did happen? So this is not working. So this is funny, it's not happening now, but if I change the definition, the IDEA would prompt that it could add a main method. And I wanted to show you the instruction set. I will not be able to do that now. So this is it for the implicit main classes. Decompile didn't work. Okay. Statements before super. So as I mentioned, when you are creating a derived class, a lot of times you when you call the superclass constructor, you might want to validate the values that come to your derived class constructor. And to do that, what do? We create a static method within the derived class, validate the values there, and then call the base class constructor. That will change with this feature. Let me hop on to my editor and show you a couple of examples. So this is statements before super. In this example, what I have right now is an element class. Nothing fancy here. 2 instance variables, atomic number and color. And the color element is being checked. If it's null, it throws an exception. And what about the industry element? Now, what it wants to do is it wants to verify whether the range of the atomic number that is passed to it falls within a particular range. And if okay, only then it wants to call the constructor. Okay, so this is already in a way that would work with statements before super, because I'm calling this method and then calling super. But if I change the settings and if I, let's say, make it the language level, let's say 20, in which I did not have this feature. So what would happen? Of course, it would not recognize that. So now you can see that it gives me an error. So call to super must be the first statement in constructor body, and if I change that, then it's accepted. So the earlier way was to have super and then the closing arrow, sorry, the closing bracket, opening bracket, sorry, and then you have check range, something like this. This goes super, check range, and then you have color. I guess I'm doing that right. Yes. So this is the old way, and the one that I showed you earlier is what which is can be used now. What are the other ways you want to use that? In this case, having an annotation on an method parameter, that could be misleading because we know annotations could be disabled at the runtime. So what happens if the annotation is disabled? Then you would not have the checking in the derived class. So what do we want to do? And I'm talking about the cases where you might not have access or the privileges to modify the code for the base class. In that case, you just cannot go and add the validation code in your base class. In this case, yes, so again, what I'm doing here in the derived class, I am using objects.require.null, and then I'm doing all the validations, and then I'm calling the superclass constructor. So this is possible with, as I said, statements before super. And in the previous example, I just wanted to highlight one thing with the changes that we had earlier. A lot of time, people would say, is it not better to kind of what am I doing here? Yes, I could also inline this value and make it like this. But a lot of time people would say, why not have the validation code in a separate method? That's okay. It's a choice that you get. You could have it as separately in a method, or you could embed that, include that in your method. It really depends on what you want to do. You should have the freedom to choose that. And also, the previous version is also good, where you are calling the method before super, and that's making the code more legible and manageable, of course, in the long run. So what are the other examples that you could use that? In this example, what I have, so we've already talked about the annotations. So let's go to example 4. And this is an example of a record where I have multiple constructors. The first constructor takes string, color, and another color. And the second one takes name as a string value. And then you have an array of colors. And I wanted to make sure that the values that I'm passing are not null. And before statements, before super, this is what I could do with, because that the call to the super had to be the first statement. So that kind of gave me a bit of, I still have difficult time understanding this line of code, even though I wrote it some time back. So that could be changed with statements with super, and this code looks much more legible and easier to read and write. So this is another benefit. One quick example is, so apart from using that in classes and records, you could also use that in your enums. And the last example on this is you could use that in, yes, so this is kind of an anti-pattern, I would say. So any feature that you use, that should make your life simpler. But what I'm doing here is I'm passing concatenation of first name and last name using a string template. That's an overkill, I would say. Just to save that one space, I could have written first name plus last name, but I'm kind of overusing this feature, and I would call that as an anti-pattern. So those are the things you probably would like to avoid. So anything that you read, you feel is not good, you should probably not do it. So that's one of the anti-patterns. And so statements before super is covered. And just one thing, it's absolutely beautiful and amazing how Java is evolving, because the syntax has changed. You can call other statements before super, but that doesn't mean that you can mess up with the creation of the base class object. You still have to create even with this arrangement, the base class object must be created fully, only then the other statements would execute. And this constraint was there from Java 1.0, and this constraint is still here. The language syntax rules have been relaxed a bit, but what is working behind the scenes is exactly the same. Let me quickly show you the instruction set. That's going to take some time, or I could pull up my blog and show that to you. Let me do one thing. Oh no. Oh, now I know. Okay. So I already have a blog post on this feature, and if you type Java P, just a moment. Where are my notes? And you can see, sorry, the instruction set for both the combinations where you have, you're calling super as the first statement, and where you're calling super as the second statement. And the instruction set would execute the, would call the creation of base class constructor at exactly the same place. So we are relaxing the language syntax rules, but what happens behind the scene is absolutely the same. And that is, I would say, beautiful, even with the changes. Any code that you've written since Java 1.0, I don't think a lot of people would have done that. I see a lot of newer faces, younger faces. I'm talking about people like me, that would work with this. So with that, let me, yes, so that was the command that I was mentioning. If you execute that with both the combination, you would get to see the instruction set, and that would make a lot of sense. And just in case if you are unaware about what each instruction code would mean, that's a link. It includes list of everything, and you could kind of view what each of that instruction code means. And the last part that I want to cover is unnamed variables and patterns. Okay. Before I do that, anyone who has used record patterns, has anyone, okay. I love you people. You've used so many new Java features. Okay. Anyone else? Yes? Okay. So this is how you might use the record patterns in switch expressions. What if I change the formatting a bit? Now look at this. So if I change the formatting a bit, that becomes absolutely amazing to read and write and understand. And with that, I would go to, because we are running out of time, I don't have the time for the demo. I'll quickly browse through this feature from one of my blog posts. I think I'm using the PDF because I was reading that on my way here on the flight. So that's okay. That could be, it's already hosted on IntelliJ Idea's website. It's easily searchable. What I'm trying to, so I've mentioned that the variables that you are not using in your code base, that could be replaced with an underscore. Why? Because you don't need to be concerned about the variables that is not being used. It sounds kind of weird that you're trying to understand a piece of code, you read a chunk of it, and then after some time you realize, oh my God, that variable I didn't have to kind of store in my memories register because it uses a lot of your cognitive resources. So that could be done away with. For a quick example, in this case, with the try for resources, the connection variable, even though it is used to establish the connection, that variable is not used in the body of the method, and that could be replaced with an underscore. What other places could you use that for? As I mentioned, a lot of times the variables cannot be dropped because the language syntax requires that. For an example, here is a lot of commotion. Am I over time? Okay, just 2 minutes and I'll be off the stage. So this is an example where I'm not using X, Y, or A or B on the right side of the arrow, and that could be replaced with an underscore. And again, so switch expressions is one of the places where I could do that. I'll quickly go through. So this is the final code that I get. Point underscore line underscore, because I was not using that. Nested records is another great example where you could use the underscore. In this case, I am using a lot of underscore because I'm only kind of interested about using the F name and the country code here. The last for loop is another place where you could use, and because this is a production feature, this is not going to change, and you could use this right now, so without any hesitation that it might change in the future. So this is a for loop where I have defined a loop variable num. At present, the code uses it. It prints out the value num here. But what if I change the code and let's say I print any random value and I'm no longer using it? In that case, I could replace that with an underscore. The other last thing that I would have is a lot of us write exception handlers where the exception variable is not used. That's another place where you might want to use an underscore. And autoclosable we've already covered. And with that, yes, one last thing. When you have a variable which is not used, that could be a code smell. So you have to really figure out whether it's a code smell or whether you are using the side effects of that variable, and you should be replacing that with an underscore. And you could read that on the blog post. And with that said, where is my slide? Okay. So I think it shut down. So thank you so much. That was all that I have. I hope you were able to learn at least one new thing. Thank you so much for your time.